here we continue with exploring monastic life, and so I was thinking for a few days about trying to really consider what I think the benefits are of living the monastic life. So I've been pondering that and trying to really come to the conclusions that I really believe, So the first thing that really came to mind was that we have the opportunity to purify and do constructive actions. And maybe that goes back to one of the first things that Venerable Children told me about our garden and pulling out not giving fertilizer to the weeds and giving the fertilizer to the things that you want to grow. And so I see that as the method, doing constructive actions and doing purification. And it makes me appreciate the Buddha's whole system of organizing the Sangha, actually, because it feels like the whole way he organized everything creates the conditions for that. And so I would say that gives us more opportunity to structure our daily life around virtue, at least the aspiration for it. And when I was thinking about this, for some reason this image came to mind of this young boy that I met many years ago. It's kind of hard to explain this. It's taken me some days to figure out why this image kept coming to mind. So I think I was in graduate school. I can't actually remember this clearly. I just remember this child very clearly. So I was working with this very young child who was maybe, a couple of years old, maybe 4, and was never going to be normal in any way, shape, or form. This child will never speak, never walk. I don't know if this child could ever go to school. It was very profoundly affected. But this child, actually, we had a very strong connection in the short time that I knew this child, and it was just through looking in each other's eyes. And it was very clear to me that this child had when I reflected on this, had a clear and knowing nature to the mind. And I was speaking once with with Sister Nancy about this, and she worked with a child once who had anencephaly, which is where you have almost no brain. And I've met a child like that too. And what she was telling me, because I was telling her about this child, and she said, yeah, I worked with a child that had anencephaly, and they really had a good heart, And so I couldn't figure out why this image kept coming to mind. I kind of thought about it in different ways, but then it finally struck me that when I was younger, what struck me is this child will never have a precious human life. And I was thinking, when I was younger, I was in college, and I had all this energy, and I was romping around, playing sports, intoxicated with youth. And a friend of mine, my high school boyfriend's older brother, who I really looked up to, came up to me and said something to me about, you have so much energy. Why don't you use it for compassion? And I just looked at him like, what? What is that? I mean, it had no impact on me. I was kind of like, well, that's nice. See you later, Rick. It was kind of like the first person who met the Buddha. That the person who met the Buddha, and wow, cool dude, see ya. That's always been like that to me. It's like he had just run into Alex Coltrane, and he just couldn't even appreciate what the qualities were of Alex Coltrane. And this person couldn't appreciate the qualities of the Buddha, and I had no clue what the qualities of compassion were. And so that's when I finally made the connection, is that my life at that time was also not a precious human life. And although I had the clear and knowing nature of mind, might have been a little foggy back then. I'm sure it was in there somewhere. So this led me to finally figure out what it is that I find most, that I appreciate the most, which are the conditions and the role modeling. Because there was nothing to put that idea into. It meant nothing to me when he said that. I had no images, I had no method, I had no ideas. I mean, I had heard of Buddhism, and I'm sure I'd read about Buddhism since I was a teenager, but I still had no modeling and no real conditions. And so that's what I'd say is very much different. Living as a monastic, we have this all the time. And so I think that we can appreciate, whether we're a monastic or not, there's a lot more available now in this country, but I have to say that I really appreciate what the Buddha organized in terms of how the Sangha is arranged, because it really does make each day, the functioning of our day is around trying to create virtue. And we have all the conditions and the role modeling that we need for that. So that's a great thing to have the opportunity to try to do, and once in a while we do it.